And it's vain because I'm trying to bring this person home. This person is asking me to take them home, and y'all saying y'all want this person to live. Y'all going against each other. But have anybody after every prayer said, Lord, let your will be done? Despite what happens in any of these natural disasters, the Lord's will was done. And when we can just come to reality that it's not about us as a human, but it is our spiritual Father, that's the only way we can become content with God and not angry with him.
So what I'm hearing you say, just to make sure that I'm clear, is that God in his infinite omniscient power has the ability to know the future and what the future would have been like had that person continued to exist in this sort of circumstance. And it is sometimes in God's mercy that he chooses to take people from us or chooses to end a life or create circumstances that are somewhat hopeless for those people who are enduring setbacks. Is that what I'm hearing you say? And for those individuals who are enduring these things, it gives them a beautiful testimony by which they will somehow, someday later, be able to testify of the goodness of God. Is that an accurate summation of your thoughts?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Definitely.
All right. And Mustang, did you have any more additional comments, or may I begin?
I do, but
go ahead.
I do, but I want to hear what you say, because I'm pretty sure this is going to follow what you have to say.
Well, I think right now I'll play devil's advocate. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because I think that sometimes things like natural disasters, unfair circumstances that have happened to people, or the fact that some people are able to get away with doing wrong and there are no reprisals. You know, I think about all of those people who were subject to genocide and ethnic cleansing, and all of those people who probably many of whom prayed for their lives were ethnically cleansed. You know, you think about the early Christian church and how many of them were torn apart by lions and shot through with arrows and set on fire, and many of the individuals who have been tortured and burned at the stake and just terrible, gruesome deaths, thrown off cliffs, all in the name of serving a little mystery man in the sky. And I wonder if we, as people who have an intellect, need to start questioning whether or not the little mystery man in the sky actually does hear prayers. Because if you look at it, there are many people who pray and it does not change the outcomes. There are many people who don't pray and have good outcomes. There are many people who actually live a life in abject opposition to God and still prosper in this earth. And we oftentimes say, well, you know, there's going to be a judgment, and then in some time off in the, Neverwhere, Soontieth, or somewhere off in the world, there will be this, karma or some sort of investigative judgment where every right and wrong will be brought into question and then ruled on. So someone's eternity will be decided at their fate at the gates of heaven or before an almighty God. And the question then remains, if there is this posthumous judgment, why would there be a need in the present to be concerned about it? And the reason why I say that is because if you're going to pray, then you would expect that the prayer would have an influence on your outcome. But if you don't pray, you don't care. You just work towards your outcome. You just push at whatever your outcome is through hook or crook. The ends justify the means by which you do it. Seems to me that as pragmatic people who look at life, we have to start to ask ourselves, what are you praying for and why bother? Does it make a difference? And if it's an exercise of faith, simply an exercise of faith, then what is your faith facilitating in terms of a change in your life? Or is it just the way you look at things? If you say, well, I prayed that the hurricane would go away and not kill, X amount of people. And so maybe it didn't. Maybe it did still kill those people. And you think, well, you know what? It was just in God's will. And then you let it go. Well, what was the point of praying to this imaginary man in the sky if he really didn't do anything based upon your prayer. And there are many people who are in the valley of decision who ask that very question. So why pray to the little imaginary man or invisible man in the sky if you never see him and he never does anything? Why bother?
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And I knew that you were going to say that. But I know that a lot of people out there feel the same way, and I think a lot of us, maybe even especially as men, we felt the same way. And there's two ways I feel like a lot of us will feel. A, we feel I don't understand. Like, hey, God, I feel like I prayed for this, I prayed for that. Why is that not happening? And then two, I feel like a lot of times we're like, hey, God, I'm kind of looking around all these Christians like sitting here bowing their heads and praying like, I'm smarter than this, kind of takes me back to when I was a kid. And I remember thinking I was smarter than my parents. But so there's a verse of Psalm 73:14, and I want to read this real quick. And it just says, I get nothing but trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. If I had really spoken this way to others, I would have been a traitor to your people. So I tried to understand why the wicked prosper. But what a difficult task it is. And actually, I want to take it back a little bit ways. This actually gives us a little more insight. It's Psalm 73:12. Look at these wicked people enjoying a life of ease while their riches multiply. Did I keep my heart pure for nothing? Did I keep myself innocent for no reason? I get nothing but trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. And that's where I went to the other. If I'd really spoken this way to others, I would have been a traitor to your people. So I tried to understand why the wicked prosper, but what a difficult task it is. Then it goes on to say, then I went into your sanctuary, O God, and I finally understood the destiny of the wicked. Truly, you put them on a slippery path and send them sliding over the cliff to destruction. In an instant, they are destroyed, completely swept away by terrors. I never forget, I went to a dog training session by one of my good friends, and we were all out there with our dogs. Everybody was allowed to bring their dog. And one of the friends of mine, he had a dog that he was training. Now, this dog was in the beginnings of training. So he had a collar, a shock collar on it. And the dog, he told the dog to stay. It was like 10, 20 feet away from the group. So the dog sat there and he stayed, and he laid down and he stayed. Well, over time, it was kind of funny. Over time, because we were all there, and, all us people, and there's these other dogs there, and he's interested. So he kind of creeps on his belly just a little bit, and he waits. And he creeps on his belly just a little bit more, a few seconds later, and waits. And he does that. And he's doing this for like probably 5-10 minutes, where he's just slowly creeping forward. And the guy that was hosting it said, guys, don't worry. I see what he's doing. He says, but I want him to get to the maximum point of disobedience before I discipline him. So this dog literally, again, let's just say he's 20 feet away. By this point, he might be 7 feet away from the group where he was been creeping on his belly. He hit that shock button and everybody jumped. I mean, granted, I would have thought, oh my God, it's cruelty to the animals. But I mean, that dog obeys more than my dogs. My dogs don't obey. But because we give them treats and let them lay in the bed and all this crazy stuff. But anyway, all that to say, that dog had to get to the maximum point of disobedience. Now, imagine there's all these other dogs there. They don't get to move. They didn't get the benefit of getting to move forward and getting to move closer to the group and slowly, seemingly passing all these other, disobeying the master. They didn't get that. So they got ahead, and he got further, and he got further, and all these other dogs are looking at him like, wait a minute. I can imagine. I'm not saying they were doing that, but I can imagine. Wait a minute. He's getting to move. Why aren't we getting to move? We got to sit here. But he moves ahead and moves ahead and moves ahead. But man, when he hit that shock and that dog yelped, we all were shocked looking at that. But the point is that, first of all, every single one of us is told, and we know, I should say, but we are also told what is right and what is wrong. And we are also told that there's a consequence. Just because the consequence isn't today, the consequence isn't the way that you see it, the consequence isn't the way that you anticipate it. They may be rich beyond your wildest dreams, but their wife is sleeping around, their children are killing each other, or molesting people, or whatever the case is. There's a million different problems they could be having in their family. Or just because it seems that their family's good, their finances could be falling apart, their relationship with their parents, or their relationship with other people, or they can't get this together, they have a drinking problem, or this problem, that problem. We think we've got it all figured out. I remember thinking the same thing with my parents. I got it. I'm a teenager. Come on, Mom and Dad, you guys are dumb. I know what I'm talking about. I mean, I've been alive 14, 15 years now. Come on now. And the second thing, and I'm gonna turn it over because I know that somebody else needs to talk, but we all die. Let me repeat that, because I think a lot of people don't understand. We all die. I'm going to get a little closer to the mic. Every person who has ever lived is living, and ever will live will die, save Enoch and Elijah. Every person will die, but we want to complain when God takes them away in a way that we do not expect or we don't anticipate. God, I expected them to die in their sleep. I expected them to die in a quick death or a painless death. I didn't expect them to die in a hurricane, God. What's wrong with you? Are you crazy, God? Who are you? Or I didn't expect them to drown, God. But every person who has ever lived, is living, or ever will live will die. But we get upset because we couldn't control how they died. Please don't make as if God is less than or doesn't understand what's going on and it doesn't have a heart for us. It's hard for me to articulate, and I don't want to get, to the guys out there that are listening. But anyway, I have more to speak about, but I'll let that be it for now.
I think your points are well taken. So what I'm understanding you to say is that the timing of punishment for maximum disobedience, if you will, maybe is left in the hands of this omniscient God who knows when it's best to pull the plug, when it's best to create a circumstance or whatever. He also knows how to turn the tables, so he can turn the tables at any time that he wishes to. And sometimes, if there is a loss of life, given the fact that all of us at some point will have to go through the process of going into eternity, then who enters that journey sooner or how they enter that journey towards an eternity may be something that we question, but we all have to enter that journey towards eternity. Is that an accurate representation of what you shared?
Yeah, definitely. And now just let me add this teeny tiny little thing of when I was saying about the punishment, to the maximum point. When I'm punishing my daughter, who's 11, I don't go round up all the children and say, hey, guys, we're all going to get together and I'm about to punish Chloe. That's her name. I'm about to punish Chloe real quick, but I want to round everybody up first before I do that. No, me and Chloe will talk and she'll have a punishment be fit for Chloe. Jax, who is 4, will have a punishment be fit for Jax. And it'll be just between me and Jax. And the same with my middle daughter, Layla. We'll have punishment for her between me and her. So God has those punishments for those people. There's a day, there's a time, there's a number, there's a second, but we don't see them. We just see the other side of it. So please don't mistake God or anybody mistake God for not understanding or not knowing, or he's just this guy that lets all the good people get to go and all the bad people, all the bad people get to go and all the good people have to suffer and do what's right. I see when my children are behaving and misbehaving, and I know when to punish and when not to punish as well.
Okay, so you're making an approximation in terms of the wisdom or the application of guidance as a result of God's wisdom. He knows best when to intervene in the life to change circumstances or to provide punishment. Gentlemen, we are out of time, and I think this topic is too big for one segment. So we're going to come back next week and complete this topic because I think I'll throw a wrench into it. So we'll check back in next week. This has been Conversations from the Cave. I'm your host, Kirk Kennedy. It has been a pleasure to have you all tune in each and every week. Please check us out on iHeartRadio, iTunes, as well as Spreaker.com, and through our Facebook page. Reach out to us if you have questions or comments about the podcasts that you hear each and every week. We also ask that you would share this podcast with your friends. We are only shared through the benevolence of our listeners, so feel free to share this podcast with others. We will be back next week at noon Central Standard Time. Again, Conversations from the Cave, and until next time, love one another.
Conversations from the Cave is brought to you by the Alabama Cornea Care Center, Northern Alabama's first irregular cornea, keratoconus, and scleral lens referral center, specializing in the management of degenerative cornea disease and complications resulting from refractive surgery. For more information, you may visit them on the web at alabamacorneacare.com. The Alabama Cornea Care Center, helping patients see the light of the world. Conversations from the Cave is a production of the Provox Media Group. For more information or to share your questions or comments, visit our podcast Facebook page by searching Conversations from the Cave. The views expressed on this program are the personal beliefs of the panelists and do not necessarily represent the beliefs of the Provox Media Group or its sponsors. Join us next time for more real talk from real men. Conversations from the Cave.